Hello, movie lovers. Welcome home. My name is Amy Henserling, and you are listening to Watch This List Unplugged, Insomnia Cinema. This is episode 3 with my dearest friend Jetta, who most of you will know as the Iron Cupcake on Letterboxd. Jetta was on the regular Watch This List talking about disaster movies, and now she is back to give me not a disaster movie, but a crazy movie called From Beyond, made by Stuart Gordon. Jetta, welcome. I'm so glad to see you in your office. Please say hello to everyone.
I'm delighted to be here to talk about this absolutely ridiculous movie.
And Jetta, like everyone that I've asked so far, she only had one response. When I said midnight movie, she was like, I got it. Like, did anything else even come into your mind?
Yes, but I thought the second choice would be something I would never, ever subject you to. So,
what is that?
Oh, you don't want to know.
Jenny, you have to tell me.
Watch it.
You have to tell me now. There's no way.
It's a little movie called Blood-Sucking Freaks. You don't want to watch it. You really don't want to watch it. Great midnight choice.
Uh-huh.
You don't want to watch it.
Everyone is looking that up right now.
Yeah, well.
Okay, so maybe someday when I'm stronger and I'm further along in my cinephile journey, then I will be able to stomach such a title.
I don't know. I don't even know if I can watch it again. But
oh, Jetta, wow. This should have been the question I asked you. Like, what's the grossest movie you've ever seen? Is that the grossest movie?
I mean, it could be. I love it because someone who's in it ended up being an assistant principal at my high school. So just for that, I think it's hilarious.
Wow.
It is so disgusting, but he ended up being such a lovely, nice person in real life. So I just think that's great. But
it's just incredible that your references never end. Okay, so we're going with From Beyond. But before we get into that, since I have started asking people questions that I feel like are inspired by the movies that they pick, the question that came to mind after this movie for you was, what is your favorite movie with the best leading protagonist who's a female?
Well, that's super difficult to pinpoint because I like so many different genres. I mean, I thought about sci-fi because of the movie we're talking about today, but I also thought about just in general. If I had to say just one, I might say Crossing Delancey because I love Amy Irving so much in it. Maybe possibly the best rom-com ever.
I've never seen that movie.
Oh my God, you have to stop recording and watch right now.
I'm going to write it down.
Incredible.
Write it down.
But I also came up with a top 5, but then that also became a top 10. And then I thought, oh no, that's way too much. But I thought you would appreciate for this podcast, me just rambling on and on.
Yes, Jetta, please give us your top 5. Please.
I also thought of Pam Grier and Jackie Brown because she's amazing.
Classic.
Molly Shannon in Superstar. Obviously, also great.
Wow. On the other end.
Barbara Stanwyck in The Lady Eve. Incredible.
And Ball of Fire.
True. Although I feel like The Lady Eve, if we're just talking character, might go with Lady Eve.
But she's so cute in Ball of Fire. Sorry, I just saw Ball of Fire. But she's so adorable.
That's so true. And then I thought, because we were talking about Australian movies recently, and I love Strictly Ballroom so much, Tara Maurice in that movie. I love any character like her or like the other women I mentioned who just go after what they want. And they're just so courageous, the dancing too. Incredible. So all of
That's
those
wonderful.
Movies.
I appreciate the top 5 gesture, and I have to see Crossing Delancey. So obviously that's right up there with Captives. The only reason I haven't seen Captives also, by the way, is because I couldn't find it, and then you finally told me where to view it. But that's The Crazy Dentist. I have not forgotten your most underrated film.
Absolutely.
That everyone needs to watch. Okay, so Jetta, let's dive into this. From Beyond, directed by Stuart Gordon, who also did The Reanimator. Who does it star, and why do you think it's the perfect midnight movie?
So it stars Jeffrey Combs and Barbara Crampton, who were also in Reanimator and also in another very interesting Stuart Gordon movie called Castle Freak, which, of course, is all about a freak in a castle. And they were also in an incredible movie called The Evil Clergyman. So check that one out.
Jeez.
Not directed by Stuart Gordon, but connected.
Mm-hmm.
But From Beyond has something really special about it in the way that these two actors, who I love so much, just get to go on this totally absurd, crazy journey. Especially for anyone who's familiar with H.P. Lovecraft and the, realms of thought that he wandered into. And really, Stuart Gordon just goes totally off the rails because the actual story is so short, and only one character in the movie is actually in the story. Stuart Gordon and his co-creators really just went off the deep end in making something totally their own. But Combs and Crampton together are so much fun, and it also has Ken Foray, who I love too, because I think his character. Yes, his character might be the best in the whole movie. I love him so much. Ted Sorrell, who is the mad scientist who really instigates all the chaos.
Dr. Pretorius.
Yes, who also is not in the story. He was just a wonderful creation of, the screenwriter's minds. And, of course, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Stuart Gordon's wife, Carolyn Purdy Gordon, because she always plays someone totally unpleasant in his movies. And once again, she is that as a doctor here. So, fantastic.
As usual, you love the cast. You love the actors. You are an actor's critic almost, I feel.
And I didn't even really say what happens in the movie, but that's just to get you started.
Yes.
So it all starts from the idea of a resonator, a machine that can somehow conjure these eel-like creatures in all various shapes and sizes. Apparently they're floating around in the air all around us. It takes the machine to bring them to the light, but when they do, I guess the world is gonna just fall apart. And Dr. Pretorius wants to take over the world, I guess? Maybe?
His final objective is somewhat unclear. We know what he likes to do in his free time, though.
Yeah, that's another fascinating thing about the movie. The idea that, it's kind of like, the whole thing is kind of like worrying about, castration and impotence and, what happens if Dr. Pretorius and Crawford Tillinghast, as played by Jeffrey Combs, can't have sex? I don't know. I mean, I guess that's the worst thing imaginable. It's a very narrow conception of, sexuality, but it's fascinating because it's not just about, where are these eels coming from and what are they going to do when they, latch onto your face, but also, what are the characters doing in their private lives and what are their hidden desires and what happens if they come to the surface and, decide to wear S&M gear. It's all these things that apparently when brought to mind could be terrifying, but exciting. So it's a very interesting story about not only the extremes that science can go to, but also interior frustrations and confusions and repressions. And, it's about the mind as much as the body. So it's fascinating. And I feel like it's the kind of thing you would want to watch at 4 a.m. So midnight, yes, but also 4 a.m. It's something you want to watch when your mind is just at its limits and your eyes are watering over.
And you're kind of, you can kind of take in anything and sort of consider it and it feel like it makes some sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's very much, as far as insomnia cinema, this is a movie that you would watch when you can't sleep and you feel like after you've watched it, your brain has melted.
And I would say, we have to talk about Dr. Catherine because I feel like she is really the main character. And one thing that I really liked about it that we were talking about was she seems to be having fun. And I like that vibe where it seems like she's just very invested. Whereas I told you, I just saw Barbarella.
Right.
A crazy, crazy movie in a different way. But Jane Fonda in that movie, to me, seems like she's not having a great time. Whereas the other Barb over here, Compton, it seems to be really enjoying it and kind of embracing what's being portrayed.
Right.
Not being overly sexualized or exploited or anything. She seems to be vibing with it.
Yeah. I think she probably really embraced, because I haven't gone back to the commentary track in a while, but there's some great DVD and Blu-ray versions with commentaries and interviews and all the kinds of special features where the cast talks about the experience of making the film.
Right.
And I think she really embraced getting to do more than she did in Reanimator, where, as much as I love that movie, she is a damsel in distress. Her character's pretty limited as far as what she can do in the story. But here, I mean, she's really as much the driving force as, Jeffrey Combs' character. They're both kind of driven mad by the resonator, and they're both simultaneously horrified by what it can do, but also they want to know more. They want to see more.
Yeah.
And, there's some talk about the fact that Dr. McMichael's character is the girl wonder. She's just trying to do all these things to further her career, and she doesn't care about her patient's well-being. And that may be true. We don't know the extent to which that's accurate. So it's very interesting that she gets to play such a murky character, but we still want to follow her, and we want to see where she goes when the resonator pushes her to her extremes.
Right.
So I love that, and I love the fact that Barbara Crampton had the ability to shape her character to some degree, because I think Stuart Gordon really trusted her to make certain decisions about, for example, the leather outfit she wears. She picked that out. They went shopping. They went to Fredericks of Hollywood, and she got to pick out the outfit that she thought would fit the character's, innermost desires. And she also, without spoiling exactly what happens in the end, she decided the ending scene. She decided how her character would react. And I think that's amazing. Like, I guess Stuart Gordon kind of had ideas about where he wanted to go with that final shot, but Barbara Crampton came up with that emotional reaction, and I love that. Like, I really appreciate the fact that she apparently loves this movie so much that she shows it at parties, and she loves showing it to her friends. So that's wonderful.
It seems to come from such a real place too. Especially the ending, her reaction. It kind of it reminded me of, have you seen The Omen?
Yes.
Like that final look from Damien. It was like that, where it was like, oh, like it just, the final frame sort of stays with you because it's so powerful. This is in a completely different way, but still. Also, I called her Barbara Compton earlier, and it's Crampton.
I wasn't going to correct you.
Well, you should have, because I can't edit, and so I'm editing myself now. Sorry, guys. But yeah, I think that ending is epic. And also, I don't know if this movie reminds you of Hellraiser in any way, but it did to me as well.
Definitely,
where they just have these, I love the female emphasis of like someone tapping into their secret desires, or, being curious and wanting to know about themselves in the sort of horror or sci-fi setting.
Right.
Especially.
Right. I mean, it's a story very much about both fear and desires and passions, and the idea that at the same time that I think it was the special effects coordinator John Nolan who said in an interview that Lovecraft wrote about bacteria as an entire world we can't see that can kill us. And at the same time, the Dr. McMichael's character has all these desires that have been lying dormant that she didn't even realize were there, but they're somewhere in there. Right. And it took this experience to bring them up. And so, I love the fact that every person in this film has so many layers, and they just didn't know exactly how much was going on inside them until the resonator, conjured them all up. So what would you say are the characteristics that it has that makes it sort of midnight or cultish? Like what do you, because this is kind of what I'm trying to learn as I'm doing these, is like, well, what is a midnight movie? What is it that, for the one that you picked, what about it strikes you as that particularly? So I think part of it is the cast. I think anyone who loves Jeffrey Combs, Barbara Crampton, Ken Foray, I think anyone who loves Stuart Gordon, they realize that this is a movie that has a certain cult following, or the potential for a cult following. And so it feels like something you would want to watch late at night, maybe with friends, with other people who would, laugh at all the same things. Although I will say, I actually did watch it once. I watched it on a double feature with Mandy. I wanted to show my brother, like, I discovered From Beyond during the pandemic. which
Uh-huh.
feels apropos, really.
Yes.
But I wanted to show him a movie when he came over to our house, I don't know, let's say June 2020, so the world was in chaos. Brooklyn was terrible. But he came over to my house, and I wanted to show him this movie that I love, and he wanted to show me Mandy because I'd never seen it, and he loves it. And frankly, neither of us liked the other choice. So it was,
So,
but
so,
it's the idea
so
of like trying something, and even if you don't know
yeah.
if you'll like it, and you know it's going to be crazy and wild and just bananas, I think that's the kind of thing that feels like a midnight or post-midnight movie, something where you don't know what to expect, but you know it's going to be a wild ride in some fashion. So you're just going to like try it and see what happens.
And you're kind of, I guess I guess it's also, it says as much about like the movie itself as your state of mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like where you're at midnight sort of thing, not just what in particular does this movie have, because I mean I'm noticing that a lot of these have like very good practical effects. This one in particular though, Jetta, the practical effects were astonishing. I read your review too about like that they used condoms for tell me about the things that you know that probably nobody else knows just about the practical stuff.
So the famous special effects designer John Carl Buechler was, I think, the head of the creation for this movie, and they wanted to create something, well, many, many creatures that would just be so bizarre and terrifying and funny, but with a particular ribbed design, so condoms were used to at least make the smaller eels that float around,
Right, okay,
upstairs,
so
not so
eels.
much the giant eel in the basement, which is just hilarious. But the idea that,
Hilarious.
I mean,
Yeah,
incredible.
to you, Jetta.
The giant lamprey eel in the flooded basement. So,
This is what Jetta loves.
well,
Go on.
yeah. I mean, if you're talking about a movie like where someone's brain is at after midnight. Okay. So the idea that, the special effects designers would use anything possible to make these creatures on their, I don't know, $2 million budget. I think it might have been $2.5 million. They just did whatever was possible, and that seemed like a good idea, and it fits with all of the sexual themes. So, fantastic.
Yeah.
Thumbs up.
Yeah, there was something that you wrote about like how they did something where it was like filmed backwards, or
Yes.
what was that?
I don't want to spoil it, but it's
Oh.
at the very end. There's the scene upstairs, which I will vaguely describe as Jeffrey Combs and the monster. And there's like a lot of things going on, but it had to be filmed backwards because apparently there was no other way to. It has to do with the makeup on his head, and so there was like no other way to do it except backwards. And I just love the idea that whatever these actors had to do, they were willing to do it, no matter what kind of makeup was involved. Wherever their characters' motivations led, they were, I guess, just really into it.
They were just down, and you get that fun vibe though. This is kind of reminiscent to me of like Christopher's movie, where the trip just felt like a bunch of friends just making something together, and then everyone being like, "Oh, let's do this," and then you kind of just wing it. But then it does come across as like just genuine good times.
Yeah, and I also really love the idea that it's difficult to advocate for Lovecraft because it's.
I was about to ask you about Lovecraft. Yeah.
Do I necessarily want to recommend his writing? No.
You're not big on him?
No.
Oh,
and
you might offend some people on here then, because I know there's some.
I mean, well, it's so hard to separate like who he was as a person from his writing, but at least for me. But the idea that Stuart Gordon was so inspired by that writing that he turned those ideas into something much bigger than the story, something fleshed out. And I mean, I think Lovecraft probably would have hated the movie From Beyond, and I think that's the greatest review anyone could ever give in favor of it.
Well, but it also does have, I mean, because I was thinking of The Thing and In the Mouth of Madness, where it's like there are the Lovecraftian theme of like that things are probably not going to work out for the best sort of feeling. I think is almost fun in this way, where it's just like, oh, if it's got Lovecraft attached, then you know there's going to be some weird stuff going on, but you also know that it's probably not going to have the most happy ending.
Yeah.
But it'll be like it'll be like somewhat existential and provocative along the way.
Yeah, definitely.
So this is no different, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea that in both From Beyond and Reanimator and in other films that Stuart Gordon made, because he had so many literary inspirations. He also did a version of The Pit and the Pendulum, and he really enjoyed pushing the boundaries. And as gross and violent as those special effects might be, and as much as you might watch some of those moments and go, ooh, why would you ever?
Yeah,
they're so entertaining and they're so funny, and they really do make you think about I don't know, just the incredible possibilities of science. I mean, would the resonator actually have solved any problems? No, probably not. It's, I don't know, how much can you create with tuning forks, but it would have been just amazing to imagine. So
it kind of reminded me of what is the name of that machine on Barbarella?
the excessive machine.
The excessive machine.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is kind of a, well, I don't know, tamer version, but
similar. I mean,
similar concept.
Clearly, the first time that Crawford and Catherine and Bubba are all in that room and they turn the machine on,
yes,
there is something like vaguely orgasmic starting to happen. So,
yes. I wouldn't say vaguely.
Well,
yes,
if they've been in there a little longer. So, you know, the idea that this is all kind of, it's all rooted in, you know, brain power and I don't know, what's the word? Just, I don't know. I've run out of words to describe what Lovecraft can do.
Well, Jetta, you had the quote at the top of your review about, and this is something that I think Yarb quoted in his as well, where it's like the minds, the meeting of the minds, like I can't think of the exact line.
I have it.
Give me the exact line about knowing the desires of another.
The greatest sensual pleasure there is to know the desires of another. Quote Dr. Pretorius.
That's, yeah. And I think that statement is the foundation of the premise.
Absolutely.
I would say. Yeah. And I think that just resonates with me so much. So I think that's
as it should. It's a resonator. The movie itself.
This is like the B-movie comment.
Yes. That's what I'm secretly doing with all my choices.
You're just trying to get me to say something accidentally that applies. Oh, good job. Well done.
But I will say also something I thought of, because, you know, we had been talking recently about, well, what if there was an episode about the movie with the hottest casts? And yes, I love the idea of choosing From Beyond, because not only do I think everyone in it is, like, insanely good looking, but also Ted Sorrell, if you read one of those reviews that I wrote, there was a time when he was so overheated by the makeup and the lights in that studio that he passed out. So, literally, so hot.
So hot.
Oh my God, poor Ted Sorrell.
That he just collapsed and he couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, now Jetta, before we get to How Midnight Is This Movie, I know you have some things that you brought with you to share with us. Show and tell with Jetta Weinstein. Go ahead.
So, first of all,
so excited.
If I can find, oh my gosh, I have to actually find where I put it. One of the things that I brought has nothing to do with From Beyond, but I just thought it would be hilarious because I thought, well, you know, if I didn't already know that you didn't like this movie, I might have picked it. But also, this would make you laugh. So, I hope that this shows up on camera because it's kind of big. But a poster for a movie I love. Mm-hmm. You do not. But it's beautifully framed. It's Crimes of Passion.
Oh my gosh.
Look at that. If you walked into someone's house and you saw a framed poster for Crimes of Passion, wouldn't you think, wow, she's got a sense of humor. She's fun.
I would think, wow, this person loves Ken Russell so much that this is framed. Ken Russell and or Anthony Perkins, but continue. Yes.
Kathleen Turner. Now, the other thing, I don't actually know where I put it. Oh, here it is.
Okay.
So, I also have my From Beyond fan art. Look at that.
Did you do this yourself?
Oh, God, no.
Oh,
I can't draw. But look at
somebody
that.
drew that?
Beautiful. Lovely.
Wow. Where did you get this
So
from?
detailed. eBay.
Oh, you actually purchased it.
I did. Please. I cannot draw. I cannot paint. Everything I do has, like, it's not even, I don't even know what kind of dimension it is. I mean, speaking of dimensions and resonators, everything I draw is like a line and a nose and a line. Like, it's, there is no detail.
Not your strong suit.
No. But,
You
know.
you need to frame that as well, Jetta, and hang it in your where you are. Yeah, that's just as worthy as Crimes of Passion.
It is. And honestly, like, who would look at this who would look at this picture and think, wow, I would never want to watch that? I mean, wouldn't you want to know? Don't you have to know?
I feel like I'd have to know, yes, especially with Dr. Catherine at the top and her glasses.
Oh, absolutely.
And then you gotta see the glasses come off. And yet another thing that I love in movies where they try very hard to like unsexify a hot person just by putting on glasses and like their hair is up. It's so funny when that happens. And I was like, oh yeah, I can see what's going on here. Please.
I mean, I would argue that Jeffrey Combs is the same way in Reanimator because I love him so much. You can't hide him under glasses. It's,
It's just the magnetism is there, Jetta.
Always.
I'm surprised you didn't have him as your sexiest person, but then again, we know your feelings on Michael Shannon.
Well, there's room in the world for all kinds.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say when I saw From Beyond, and I think I might have watched it the same night as Reanimator. Like, I think I did a double feature, but I'm not sure.
Oh,
but
nice.
When I watched them both together, I was like, oh my God, who is this person, this scrumptious man who I've never seen before? And then I had to watch 30 of his movies. So
here we go again. And I noticed this because
that's what I do. I get obsessive, and then I have to watch everything someone ever made. Which is
correct.
Great.
That's why you're an actor's person.
Mm-hmm.
And then in your review, you had it like linked to Jeffrey Combs. It wasn't.
Yes.
Most normal people do this with a director, Jetta, but you fall in love with people.
Well, I mean, I do that with directors too. But I think that one of the greatest feelings you can have when you watch a movie is to either discover an actor you've not been familiar with, or someone who you've seen in other things, but there's something about that experience that, it's like the doors in your mind are opening, and it's just amazing because all of a sudden you want to understand the entirety of their career. And also they're just adorable. I mean, Jeffrey Combs, how could you not love that cheetah print blanket he has in that bedroom? Like, why does he have that? Did he buy it? Or was it given to him by Dr. Pretorius? I'm leaning toward the latter, but...
No, I'm going to lean towards the latter. There's no way that character owned that. That is definitely Pretorius territory. Because he was even like, I used to sleep in his room or whatever. Remember that line?
Yes, and I'm guessing also the wall art is not his own because he definitely wouldn't have bought that. But
no,
you never know. Maybe he brought it from home. I don't know.
Maybe he will now.
Okay,
Jetta. How midnight is this movie? I think you already answered this because you basically said it was either midnight or 4 a.m., but just to confirm, and then I will tell you what I think.
Anytime after midnight, really. I'm leaning towards 4 a.m., but I think any time in the deepest, darkest point of night is acceptable.
The deepest, darkest point of night.
Yeah.
Okay, you are not going to like my answer at all. So I'm prefacing this. But I actually think that this movie is best as like a midday movie.
And that's when you watched it, right?
And I will say maybe I need to rewatch it at midnight to compare because this isn't really fair. But like a matinee time, like 11 a.m., I just had such a blast. I don't know. I was just like,
I'm glad that you did. For sure.
I can't say it resonated again, but like it just really reached me and spoke to me, and I felt like I didn't need to be in a different state of mind. Like it just works. So that's why I don't kind of think it's a midnight movie, because it does work in the daytime. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Maybe that should be my criteria.
Okay.
In the future.
I love it so much that I would be happy with someone watching it at any time of day, so I'm not going to really judge. But I do think there's something extra special about watching it when, I don't know, it's like sometime in the middle of the night when you have no other distraction and you can just be totally I mean, I know this is unplugged cinema, but when you're plugged into the movie, I mean, I love that idea of like nothing else. It's just this. It's that pink and purple world. It's, all encompassing and, incredible.
We just, both of us loved it. We want everyone to watch it. I liked it better than Reanimator. I think you did too.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're great in different ways.
But
this one for sure. I mean, I've had this in my top 4 on Letterboxd for probably 2.5 years at this point. So, yeah.
And I noticed that over time you went up. Like you had started off a little bit lower and now it's locked in at 5 stars.
Yeah, I think
forever.
I needed to watch some more Stuart Gordon movies to really get a sense of his style and his interests. I remember I watched Dolls. That was one that really made me more of a fan. I watched Fortress. That's fun. Castle Freak. So I think as I began to... Oh, there's one called Space Truckers. I mean, incredible, right?
Oh my
Space
gosh,
Truckers.
these titles.
And that has Dennis Hopper, I think. Unless I'm thinking of the wrong movie.
Him.
So there you go. Put that on a double bill with The Trip.
Yeah.
So I love the idea that as I got more and more familiar with his work, I could just love From Beyond more and more. So
this would not be a Jetta episode if she didn't recommend a million other movies. So there you have it. We want you to watch From Beyond, though, first and foremost. Jetta, it's gone by so quickly. Thank you for sharing your passion with us. As usual, it's contagious. And we'll see you at the movies.
Thanks.